In light of his resignation, let's cross now to my colleague Mbalenhle Mthethwa as she gets into conversation with Kabelo Gwamanda, who of course is deciding to exit as the executive mayor of Johannesburg. Mbalenhle, it's over to you.
Good afternoon, Nompu. Yes, certainly. We are standing by to speak with the outgoing mayor, Kabelo Gwamanda, who has been the mayor of the city of Johannesburg since May of 2023. And we certainly do understand what happened when he came in as part of the government of local unity, when that took over, and there was a lot of conversations around his qualifications and the fact that he came from a minority party and why it is that a candidate from a minority party had been elected to the highest office in the city of Johannesburg. We catch up with him today under completely different circumstances to talk to him about his performance as the mayor. You will remember that he was voted in and elected with the backing of both the ANC as well as the EFF. He joins us now. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. When you first came into office, right, before we talk about how you're feeling today, when you first came into office, we must always remember that there was there were financial challenges in the city of Johannesburg, and you had vowed to restore the city's finances. We saw service providers as well as SMMEs not being paid in the December of 2022 under the multi-party coalition at the time, and there was a motion before council for a 2 billion rand loan, which was rejected on 2 occasions in council. You come in with the intention of stabilizing the city's finances. Do you feel that you were able to do that as your first order of duty when you came into office?
Thank you very much, Mbali, and good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your viewers. The city of Johannesburg, firstly, is a highly contested municipality, so much so that all the wrongs that have taken place in the past in the city of Johannesburg have been concealed for whichever reason. But the government of local unity had come forth and said transparency, good governance, financial stability is part of our strategic priorities for the government of local unity. There had been vehicles that have been grounded in the city. JMPD could not perform its duties. Service providers, of course, had not been paid due to the fact that finances were prioritized for internal issues of impeding on the work of administration as opposed to enabling an environment that would allow service delivery to continue. Our first order of business was to look at the contracts that were unduly cancelled or put on hold so that we can reactivate those to ensure that the first phase of our restoration process unfolds. The second to that was to look at the Auditor General's findings and which areas we needed to focus on so that we can improve in our spend, in the manner in which our finances as a city are handled, because we are entrusted by residents to discharge our duties, in particular relating to the finances of the city with integrity, with the consideration that they've entrusted us with that role and responsibility. And in as far as I can put it, is that there had been no issues that were registered during that particular period. And the government of local unity did, in fact, do their best to ensure that we restore to some level the service delivery that was required in the city of Johannesburg.
Okay. Now, what you're in fact talking about is what the city of Johannesburg inherited when you were elected into that position. And you are in fact saying that there was somewhat of a lull in terms of, bringing these shortcomings and these challenges which were happening under the previous administration. But however, these were then blamed on you. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that there were nefarious intentions with regards to, these inherited challenges, therefore being, being blamed on yourself and your administration and your leadership?
Thank you very much, Mbali. I'm actually surprised that any self-respecting journalist would want to associate a collapse of a city with a couple of months tenure. That's important to put out there. How you measure the performance of an executive mayor is different to how you measure anything else. You need to look at the overall structure of what it takes to run a city, what the role of an executive mayor is. And you need to do that from an informed position before you can actually have an appreciation of what it takes. The city of Johannesburg, in fact, on record, has no indication of it possibly going into an administration, putting it under administration, because the city of Johannesburg has performed quite well in the past couple of months, or rather in the previous financial year. And as we go into the next financial year, the city of Johannesburg will do much better. It has been in a state for quite some time, and there had been quite a significant amount of barriers, even for those that wanted to willingly collaborate with government to focus on certain areas of the city, because they understood that we as the government do not have the reach to be able to cover all areas all at the same time, and they are critically, it's competing priorities all the time. So civil society and businesses have in fact come on board under this administration, and we collaborated and we were able to bring about change in the city of Johannesburg. Perhaps the changes that came out in the city of Johannesburg happened under the wrong political party and the wrong mayor, and that's why it became difficult for them to appreciate, firstly, the difficult circumstances in which one needed to navigate, but secondly, a new councillor that had not had an executive role to have concluded an agreement, because I want to take you to a unique aspect of this conversation. The government of local unity resolved on a name that would be at the helm. There was an understanding across the board to say the biggest party, which is the ANC, cannot ascend into the position of mayor, and therefore we need an alternative. And for political parties to have so much confidence in a particular political party, that on its own, it's history for the city of Johannesburg. But more so, a political party that is considered a small political party to have successfully completed the mission of all political parties involved is an achievement, a successful achievement on its own. And Al-Jamaa, as a party, firstly, is and will always be grateful for the opportunity and the trust that political parties had. And you can tell from engagements with other political parties that they were content with how the tenure was managed.
Okay. There are complaints from the opposition benches. We've also had this conversation in council with those who are accusing you of failing in your duties. And I hear you touching on the successes of your tenure in office. What do you make of those? Do you think those comments are fair at this point? And have they contributed to the decision that you have made to tender your resignation from the position of mayor of City of Johannesburg?
My resignation is informed by nothing outside of a conversation that was had with the ANC. The same way that the conversation was had in inception, to say we need you to become mayor, and then we will further engage on when a transition will take place. That discussion has happened, and I have acceded to the request with, in fact, with gratitude. Both understanding what the experience that they've given me, but also relieving the burden this enormous burden of having to lead the city of Johannesburg, because not only is it a privilege, but it's intense. But the opposition is, it's only one political party from opposition. An unfortunate political party that has lost completely its expression with its voters. And they have identified this person as their way to resurrect into the political landscape. But in actual fact, it has got nothing to do with in fact, in the entire political landscape, they are insignificant. With the numbers that they have, if my political party had those numbers, there would be a significant amount of change, and the course of history would have been completely different. But because they lack political strategy, they are reactionaries, and they have no meaningful contribution to what the city requires. One thing that I can register on record is the fact that the service delivery breakdowns in the city of Johannesburg started during the tenure of Herman Mashaba. And the reason why I'm saying that is because he has, or has always had, his issues with the African National Congress. And everything that had to do with the city of Johannesburg, he perceived as the African National Congress, so much so that he terminated so many contracts in the city, brought service delivery to a complete standstill. There's a difference, Mbali, between a mayor that is on TV talking about things that are non-existent and a mayor that is on the ground doing their best to ensure that they are able to restore certain critical areas of our service delivery. And for someone to have initiated or started a breakdown of an entire city and then find convenience because there's pressure for him to represent constituency in an individual.
Mayor, just 1 second. I need to welcome our SABC3 viewers who have just joined in on our conversation with the outgoing City of Johannesburg Executive Mayor, who is giving us a synopsis of, you know, what his administration has been able to achieve and what can be attributed to the service delivery failures that have been seen in and around the city of Johannesburg. This is a conversation that is happening exclusively with the SABC. We continue with the conversation. Mayor, you were still talking about when service delivery failures began, and you are attributing this to a decision by the former mayor, Herman Mashaba, all the way as far back as 2016, when the first coalition took over the city of Johannesburg, where contracts were cancelled on the basis that they were awarded unfairly, unlawfully, and were all corrupt, and unfortunately led to service delivery failures. Please continue on that trail of thought.
No, thank you very much. So the comments that I'm depositing is according to his perception of how the structure of the city of Johannesburg operated at the time. His paranoia took him to a point where he established a rogue unit that was unlawful to investigate councillors in particular, because he was of the view that they were perpetuating corruption. Now, he, in the name of fighting corruption, compromised the service delivery standards of the city, because everyone needed to then redirect their focus towards trying to pinpoint where they would perceive anything that looks like corruption, of which it's not something that was ideal for the city of Johannesburg. And I'm citing this because the only time that the service delivery breakdowns in the city started to be aired on news channels and radios was when my predecessor, Councillor Dada Morero, first came into office. As the as the government of local unity, we had understood that there's a water challenge in the city of Johannesburg, and in his deposits to how we can possibly mitigate, he ended up inheriting a name, they called him MMC of Jojo tanks, citing the fact that he has no clue of what he was doing, whereas that particular challenge with water has been consistently in the city of Johannesburg. Unfortunately, the tenure didn't last, and then Councillor Ahmad was then elected. During Councillor Ahmad's election, he raised the issue of potholes that are in the city of Johannesburg. And instead of understanding where he was coming from, he was then ridiculed and called the mayor of potholes. But this is me giving you a practical sense of the historic nature of the challenges that are prevalent in the city of Johannesburg, and that would require a concerted effort to ultimately resolving in their entirety.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.